I refused to fund my sister's extravagant wedding, was uninvited and alienated by family. Months later, the wedding's off, and she wants to reconcile. I, 34 male, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Jessica, 29 female. Growing up in a middle-class family in suburban Ohio, our parents struggled to make ends meet. My mom worked long hours as a factory manager, while my dad juggled part-time jobs to supplement his income. Despite their best efforts, money was always tight. From an early age, I noticed a stark difference in how our parents treated Jessica and me. She was the baby of the family, born when I was already in elementary school. Our parents doted on her, often sacrificing their own needs to give her the best of everything. I, on the other hand, was expected to be more independent and self-reliant. This dynamic became even more pronounced as we entered our teenage years. I excelled in school, particularly in math and science. I joined a robotics club and spent hours tinkering with computers in our garage. My parents were proud of my achievements, but they rarely had the time or resources to support my interests fully. Jessica, meanwhile, struggled academically but shone in sports. She joined the high school football team and quickly became a local star. Our parents never missed a game, cheering her on from the sidelines. They scraped together money for private coaching and top-of-the-line equipment, determined to nurture her athletic talent. When it came time for college, the disparity in our treatment reached its peak. I had my heart set on attending a prestigious tech school out of state. Despite my excellent grades and test scores, our parents sat me down and explained they couldn't afford the tuition. They encouraged me to attend the local state university instead, where I could live at home and save money. Jessica, however, received a different message. Though her grades were mediocre, our parents were determined to send her to a good school with a strong football program. They took out a second mortgage on our house to cover her tuition and living expenses at a private university several states away. I was devastated but determined to make the best of my situation. I threw myself into my studies at the state school, working part-time jobs to cover my expenses and taking out student loans to fill the gaps. It was a challenging few years, but I graduated with honors and landed a job at a promising tech startup. Over the next decade, I worked tirelessly to build my career. I put in long hours, constantly upskilled, and took calculated risks that paid off. By my early 30s, I had climbed the ranks to become a senior software engineer at a major tech company, earning a comfortable six-figure salary. Jessica's path after college was less straightforward. Her dreams of playing professional football never materialized, and she seemed lost without that goal. She bounced between various jobs: bartender, personal trainer, car salesperson, never sticking with anything for long. Our parents continued to support her financially, paying her rent and bailing her out of credit card debt more than once. Despite the tensions from our childhood, I tried to maintain a relationship with Jessica. We'd meet up for dinner when I visited our hometown, and I made efforts to stay involved in her life. But there was always an undercurrent of resentment on both sides. She envied my success, while I couldn't forget the preferential treatment she'd received. About 2 years ago, Jessica met her now-fiancé, Adam, 27 male, at a local bar where she was working. Amy came from a wealthy family and had a job in marketing. They hit it off immediately, bonding over their shared love of partying and living in the moment. After dating for only 6 months, Jessica proposed with a ring she'd bought on credit. When Jessica announced their engagement, our parents were over the moon. They immediately offered to contribute $10,000 towards the wedding despite being on a fixed income in retirement. Jessica and Adam began planning an extravagant celebration, talking about destination venues and designer suits as if money was no object. I tried to stay out of the wedding planning, focusing on my own life and career. But a few weeks ago, Jessica called me out of the blue. She sounded excited and a bit sheepish as she explained that their wedding budget had ballooned to over $50,000. They wanted a lavish affair at a historic mansion with gourmet catering and a live band. Jessica asked if I could chip in $15,000 to help cover costs, assuring me she'd pay me back someday. I was stunned by the request. While I could technically afford it, $15,000 was a significant amount of money, more than I'd spent on my entire wardrobe over the past 5 years. I told Jessica I'd need time to think about it, which seemed to disappoint her. Last weekend, our family got together for dinner at our parents' house. It was supposed to be a casual catch-up, but Jessica quickly steered the conversation toward the wedding. She started pressuring me about contributing, talking about how amazing the venue was and how much it would mean to have my support. I tried to deflect, saying I wasn't comfortable committing to such a large amount. I suggested they consider scaling back their plans to fit their budget. This seemed to touch a nerve with Jessica. I'd always prioritized my career. And while I was proud of my accomplishments, I sometimes wondered if I'd have life. Pushing those thoughts aside, I calmly said, "Jessica, I worked very hard to get where I am in my career. My money isn't just there for you to take. I have my own financial goals and responsibilities." She scoffed and said, "Oh please, you just sit at a computer all day." It's not like you do anything important or meaningful. Some of us actually want to have families and lives outside of work. Her dismissal of my career, which I'd poured my heart and soul into, was the last straw. I told Jessica firmly that I wouldn't be contributing anything to her wedding after the way she spoke to me. Jessica exploded in anger, calling me a selfish bastard and other choice names. Our parents tried to intervene, with Dad pleading for us to calm down, and Mom raising her voice to be heard over the argument, but I'd had enough. I grabbed my wallet and left the dinner early, ignoring their calls for me to come back. Since then, my phone has been blowing up with messages from Jessica and our parents. They're saying I'm being petty and cruel for withholding money over a little argument. Jessica has even threatened to uninvite me from a wedding if I don't pay up. While our parents are urging me to be the bigger person and let it go for the sake of family harmony, I feel torn and conflicted. On one hand, I don't want to reward Jessica's entitled behavior or let her belittle my career and life choices. The way she spoke to me brought up a lot of old hurt from our childhood, reminding me of all the times I've been expected to sacrifice for her benefit. On the other hand, I worry that I'm being too harsh and potentially damaging our relationship beyond repair. Despite our issues, she's still my sister, and I don't want to be the reason her wedding dreams are ruined. Plus, I know that refusing to contribute will likely cause a rift with our parents as well, who've always expected me to look out for Jessica. I'm stuck between standing my ground and keeping the peace. Part of me wants to just write the check to make this all go away, but another part feels that would be letting Jessica walk all over me once again. I could use some outside perspective on whether I'm justified in refusing to contribute, or if I'm being an a-hole for letting an argument affect such an important event. Am I the a-hole for refusing to contribute to the wedding? Should I just suck it up and pay to keep the peace? I'm really struggling with this decision, and could use some advice. Update 1. It's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and unfortunately, the situation with my family has only deteriorated further. After my initial refusal to contribute to Jessica's wedding, she and our parents ramped up their pressure campaign. I received daily calls and texts guilt-tripping me about ruining the wedding and tearing the family apart. They brought up every possible argument, from reminding me of times Jessica had helped me in the past, most of which I struggled to recall, to suggesting I was jealous of her happiness. The constant barrage was wearing me down, but I tried to stand firm in my decision. I knew that if I gave in now, it would set a precedent for Jessica to come to me for money whenever she wanted in the future. Plus, her insulting words about my career still stung, and I felt she owed me an apology before I could even consider helping her. Things escalated when my dad showed up at my apartment unannounced one evening. I had just gotten home from a long day at work and was looking forward to a quiet night in. Instead, I opened the door to find him teary-eyed and pleading. He talked about how he and Mom had always dreamed of seeing both their children happily married, and how much it would mean to them to have a beautiful wedding for Jessica. He reminded me of all the sacrifices they had made for us growing up, conveniently glossing over the unequal treatment, and how it was our duty as children to bring them joy in their old age. It was a masterclass in emotional manipulation, and I felt my resolve wavering. But then he said something that snapped me back to reality. He mentioned that they were considering taking out a loan against their house to cover the wedding costs if I wouldn't help. The idea of my retired parents going into debt for Jessica's extravagant wedding plans was the wake-up call I needed. I steeled myself and told my dad that while I understood their desire to give Jessica a nice wedding, I couldn't be responsible for funding it. I reiterated that $15,000 was a lot of money and that I had my own financial goals and responsibilities. I also expressed concern about them taking on debt at their age, and gently suggested that perhaps Jessica and Adam should consider a more modest celebration within their means. My dad didn't take this well. He accused me of being cold-hearted and said he didn't recognize the son he had raised. He left my apartment in tears, and I spent the rest of the night feeling guilty and conflicted. The next day, I decided to extend an olive branch. I called Jessica and offered compromise. I said that while I couldn't contribute the full $15,000, I would still like to be involved in her big day. I offered to help with some DIY decorations or other non-financial contributions. I thought this was a reasonable way to show my support without compromising my financial boundaries. Jessica's response shocked me. She coldly informed me that if I wasn't going to pay the full amount, I wasn't welcome at the wedding at all. She claimed my presence would cast a dark cloud over their special day, and that she didn't want to look back on her wedding photos and be reminded of my selfishness. I was stunned into silence. The idea of being excluded from my own sister's wedding over money was heartbreaking, but it also reinforced my belief that Jessica only saw me as an ATM, not as family she actually wanted to celebrate with. When I relayed this conversation to our parents, hoping they would see how unreasonable Jessica was being, they surprisingly took her side. They said I should respect the couple's wishes, and that if I really cared about family, I would find a way to contribute the money to make things right. I felt like I was living in an alternate reality where my feelings and boundaries meant nothing in the face of Jessica's desires. The whole situation was bringing up painful memories from our childhood, reminding me of all the times I'd been expected to sacrifice my own needs or wants for Jessica's benefit. Things came to a head last weekend at a family gathering. It was my cousin's birthday party, and I decided to attend, hoping that being in a larger family setting might diffuse some of the tension. Jessica and Adam were there along with our parents and various aunts, uncles, and cousins. As soon as I arrived, I could feel the frosty atmosphere. Jessica and Adam were huddled with our parents, shooting glares in my direction. I tried to focus on catching up with other relatives, but the tension was palpable. About an hour into the party, Jessica confronted me. She accused me of crashing the event when I wasn't part of the family anymore. I tried to speak to her calmly, reminding her that I had as much right to be at a family gathering as she did, but she just got more worked up, her face turning red as she raised her voice. Adam joined in, calling me selfish and accusing me of trying to ruin their wedding out of jealousy. He made snide comments about how I was probably going to die alone with my computers for company. Our parents stood by, not intervening, as Jessica and Adam verbally attacked me in front of the entire family. The argument escalated until Jessica shoved me hard, causing me to stumble backward into a table. Our uncle had to physically restrain Jessica to prevent things from getting worse. I left immediately after that, shaken by how violent the situation had become and hurt that no one, not even our parents, had stepped in to defend me. Since then, I've received a flood of messages from family members. Some, like my cousin whose party it was, are supportive of me. They're appalled by Jessica's behavior and have reached out to check if I'm okay. But many are still taking her side, saying I provoked her by showing up uninvited and that I should have known better than to attend a family event after refusing to contribute to the wedding. Most hurtful of all was a call from my parents. Instead of asking if I was all right after being physically assaulted by my sister, they berated me for embarrassing Jessica in front of the family, some of whom had also been at the gathering. They demanded that I apologize to Jessica and Adam and agree to contribute to the wedding to make amends. I'm at a total loss for how to handle this situation now. The sister I grew up with seems like a stranger to me, capable of physical violence over a financial disagreement. My parents, who I always thought would have my back no matter what, seem to care more about keeping Jessica happy than about my well-being. I'm heartbroken at how money has destroyed our family relationships, but despite all this, I also feel I can't back down now without completely losing my self-respect. Giving in to their demands after how I've been treated feels like it would be validating their behavior and opening the door for more emotional and financial exploitation in the future. I've decided to take a step back from all family events for the foreseeable future. I'm focusing on my work and spending time with supportive friends instead. It hurts to feel so isolated from my family, but I think it's necessary for my mental health right now. I'm still processing everything that's happened and trying to figure out how to move forward. Part of me wants to try one last time to reason with Jessica and my parents, but another part feels like it might be healthier to accept that we may never have the kind of relationship I hoped for. Thank you to everyone who offered advice on my original post. I appreciate the support and outside perspectives as I navigate this difficult situation. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share some unexpected developments in the ongoing saga with my sister and family. The biggest news is that Jessica and Adam's wedding has been called off. I found out through a group text from my mother simply stating that due to unforeseen circumstances, Jessica and Adam have decided to postpone their nuptials indefinitely. Curious about what had happened, I reached out to my cousin Stephen, who tends to be in the loop on family gossip. He filled me in on the details he'd heard through grapevine. Apparently, Jessica and Adam had a huge fight over the wedding budget and guest list. From what Stephen heard, Adam wanted to invite a bunch of his college fraternity brothers and their partners, most of whom Jessica had never met. This would have added significantly to the already bloated guest list and catering costs. When Jessica protested about the extra expense, Adam accused her of caring more about money than his happiness. He brought up my refusal to contribute, saying that if Jessica had a better relationship with her family, they wouldn't be having these problems. This led to a bitter argument where a lot of underlying issues in their relationship came to light. Adam complained that Jessica wasn't ambitious enough and that he was tired of her relying on his income and his parents' connections to maintain their lifestyle. Jessica accused Adam of being materialistic and said she felt pressured to live beyond her means to keep him happy. The argument spiraled from there, with both of them saying hurtful things they couldn't take back. By the end of it, Adam had thrown his engagement ring at Jessica and stormed out of their apartment. While part of me felt a sense of vindication that their over-the-top wedding plans had fallen apart, I also felt bad for Jessica. Despite our issues, I knew how much she had been looking forward to the wedding and starting this new chapter of her life. I imagined she must be devastated. After mulling it over for a few days, I decided to reach out to Jessica. I sent a simple text saying I'd heard about the broken engagement and that I was sorry things hadn't worked out. I told her that if she needed someone to talk to, I was here. To my surprise, Jessica actually responded positively. She thanked me for checking in and acknowledged that things had gotten out of hand with the wedding planning. She admitted that the stress of trying to put together such an expensive event had taken a toll on her relationship with Adam. We exchanged a few more messages, and Jessica suggested we meet up for coffee to talk things through in person. I was hesitant at first given how our last encounter had ended, but I agreed. We decided to meet at a neutral location, a small cafe halfway between our apartments. I was nervous going into the meeting, unsure of what to expect, but it actually went better than I could have imagined. Jessica arrived looking tired and subdued, a far cry from the angry, entitled person I had dealt with at the family gathering. She started by apologizing for her behavior at the party, especially for shoving me. She said she'd been consumed by stress and frustration, but she knew that was no excuse for physical violence. Jessica admitted that she'd been doing a lot of soul-searching since her breakup with Adam, and realized she had a lot of issues to work on. We had a long, honest conversation about our childhood, and felt inadequate compared to me, which fueled a lot of her anger and entitlement around money. She said she regretted dismissing my career and explained that it came from a place of insecurity about her own lack of direction. I opened up too, sharing how hurt I'd been by the preferential treatment she received growing up, and how it had affected our relationship as adults. We both shed some tears as we worked through years of pent-up emotions. By the end of our talk, it felt like we'd made real progress in understanding each other. Jessica asked if we could work on rebuilding our relationship, taking things slowly and communicating more openly. I agreed, feeling cautiously optimistic about the future of our sibling bond. However, things are still strained with our parents. When I told them about meeting up with Jessica, they seemed more concerned about whether the wedding was back on than about us repairing our relationship. They're upset that I allowed the wedding to be called off by not contributing money. They seem to think that if I had just paid up, everything would have worked out fine. I've tried explaining that the issues between Jessica and Adam went far beyond just finances, but they don't want to hear it. They're still pushing for me to offer Jessica money, suggesting that maybe she could win Adam back if she could promise him the lavish wedding he wanted. I've had to set firm boundaries, making it clear that I won't be discussed in these financial terms. It's frustrating to deal with their fixation on money and status, but I'm trying not to let it derail the progress Jessica and I have made. We've agreed to meet up regularly and are taking small steps to build trust. I'm also working on maintaining healthier boundaries with our parents. I've started limiting my conversations with them, steering clear of topics related to wedding. It's not easy, and there are times I feel guilty for pulling back, but I know it's necessary for my own well-being. Throughout this whole ordeal, I've been incredibly grateful for the support of my friends and some understanding family members like my cousin Stephen. They've provided a sounding board and reality check when I've doubted myself. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of my relationship with Jessica, but I know we have a long way to go. As for my parents, I'm less certain. Their attitudes toward money and family obligations seem deeply ingrained, and I'm not sure if that will ever fully change. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time, focusing on my own mental health and the relationships that bring positivity to my life. Thank you again to everyone who has followed along with this story and offered support and advice. It's been a challenging few months, but I feel like I'm finally starting to see a way forward. Update 3. It's been about 2 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on how things have progressed with my family situation. Jessica and I have continued to work on rebuilding our relationship. We've been meeting up for coffee or lunch every couple of weeks to talk. It's been challenging at times, but also rewarding to finally address years of built-up resentment and misunderstandings. During one of our recent meetings, Jessica opened up about her struggle since the breakup with Adam. She admitted that she'd fallen into a depression and had started drinking heavily to cope. This revelation worried me, and I gently encouraged her to consider talking to a therapist. To my surprise, she was receptive to the idea and asked for help finding someone. We've also been talking more about our careers and future goals. Jessica confessed that she's felt lost since her soccer dreams didn't pan out, and she's never really known what she wanted to do with her life. I've been trying to be supportive without being pushy, sharing some of my own experiences of figuring out my career path. One positive development is that Jessica has started showing genuine interest in my work. She asked me to explain what I actually do as a software engineer, admitting that she'd never really understood it before. I walked her through some basics of coding, and she seemed fascinated. She even asked if I could teach her more, saying she's considering exploring tech as a potential career path. I've been cautious about getting too involved, not wanting to create new avenues for financial dependence, but I've been helping Jessica polish her resume and practice for job interviews. She's applied for a few entry-level positions in tech companies, and while she hasn't had any offers yet, she seems more motivated than I've seen her in years. Things with our parents are still complicated. They're glad Jessica and I are getting along better, but they still make occasional comments about how everything would have been fine if I had just paid for the wedding. I'm working on setting firmer boundaries with them, making it clear that I won't discuss financial matters related to Jessica or the canceled wedding. There was a tense moment at a recent family dinner when my dad brought up the possibility of Jessica and Adam reconciling. He suggested that if I contributed the money I had promised, which I never did, maybe they could rekindle their relationship. I shut down that line of conversation immediately, reminding them that Jessica and Adam's relationship issues went far beyond wedding finances. I've also been reflecting a lot on my own attitudes toward money and success. While I stand by my decision not to fund Jessica's wedding, I realized I could have communicated my feelings more clearly from the start. I'm trying to be more open about my finances with my family to avoid misunderstandings while still maintaining healthy boundaries. One unexpected outcome of this whole situation is that it's brought me closer to some of my extended family members. My cousin Stephen in particular has become a great source of support. We've started having regular video chats, and it's nice to have a family member I can talk to openly without feeling judged. As for my own personal life, I've been making efforts to find more balance between work and socializing. I joined a local tech meetup group and have been enjoying connecting with like-minded professionals outside of work. I've even been on a few casual dates, though nothing serious has developed yet. Overall, I feel cautiously optimistic about the future of my family relationships. There's still work to be done, especially with my parents, but we're moving in a positive direction. I'm proud of the progress Jessica and I have made, and I hope we can continue to strengthen our bond as siblings. Thank you to everyone who has followed this story and offered support and advice along the way. It's been incredibly helpful to have outside perspectives as I navigated this challenging situation. While things aren't perfect, I feel like I've grown a lot through this experience, and I'm better equipped to handle family dynamics going forward.